How do you measure the performance of employees in a virtual work environment? You've outlined here that you think your employees are only working about 15 to 20 hours a week. You don't know how to measure their performance besides time because the impact is measured at the end of the year. I'm going to answer this question based on my knowledge as an industrial organizational psychologist and as a former manager of teams from as small as 6 to as large as over 100. I'm Dr. Nicole Schmidt. I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, and I research the unwritten rules of work for the working class, neurodivergence, and intersections of race and gender. I've worked in public, private, and academic settings. I do not know you personally, so I'm just going to give the response with the very little information I have. I do not know your industry, you as a leader, etc. But it sounds to me that you're not clear on what actual performance for your organization looks like and how that relates to people in the individual work. And so let me show you a model that I use to help with that. So the organizational mission should be guiding everything, and all of the human behaviors leading up to that should be aligned. Ideally, all the jobs in your organization would have been conducted with a job analysis or a competency model to show how they relate to the organizational mission. But there are steps in between the mission and the job itself that tell you how you're performing. This is by measuring the employee's individual performance on what matters for the mission, and on supervisors having KPIs that match their office mission and how that aligns to the organizational mission. In some cases, that may be time. For example, if it is necessary for your organizational mission to have people who have shifts where they're doing customer service, if they don't show up, they're not picking up the phone when people call in, then yeah, that's a problem. And that should be part of their performance to make sure they are available during the hours on their shift. However, if that's not their job, if maybe they're an analyst or a marketer, there may be other things that the department they're in should be measuring on the KPIs to know if they're performing well, such as how well their marketing campaign is going. Have you had more conversions from outreach to sales? If they're an analyst, what problems have they helped you solve in the organization? What have they streamlined? What projects have they completed? And this shouldn't be your role as the business owner unless you're a super teeny tiny company. This is the role of the middle manager. This is why I'm against getting rid of, part of why I'm against getting rid of middle managers. There should be little milestones along the way to check in to know if they are performing. You know what your overall mission is. How does that break down quarterly? How does that break down monthly? How does that break down weekly? You shouldn't be the only one doing this. Your manager should be capable of doing this. And if they're not equipped to do that, they need training. Something a lot of people from working class backgrounds struggle with is how deeply entrenched the work ethic is. And a lot of them are doing manual labor service work, which is exhausting. However, that also leads to more mistakes, especially in knowledge work. You need to have breaks. And those breaks are less visible in in-person work. Every time I'm on client site, I'm amazed how much time we're not doing work. We're networking, we're chatting, we're doing the water cooler thing. But it still appears that I'm there. So it doesn't look like I'm taking a break. In a virtual setting, you don't always have that. You just see the little green dot turns yellow. But even then, I've also been someone to take walks while I'm in meetings. So the green dot may not be showing on my computer, but I'm on my phone on Zoom or Teams. So if you're going to measure time, make sure you're including that as well. Research shows that the human brain only functions at top performance for 4 to 5 hours a day, and that's not consecutively. Taking breaks is normal, and people do this in offices all the time. Now, employees, if you are working remotely, where you miss out here is that water cooler is where you build a lot of relationships that can help you throughout your career. And I know, I'm neurodivergent too. I can already see the complaints in the comments of that you don't want to socialize, you just want to do your job and go home. Just warning you, you're missing the opportunity to talk to coworkers. That doesn't mean you can't have it virtually, but you should be intentional in trying to maintain those relationships. But ultimately, as the business owner, I think the question to ask is, what are you missing right now? What is missing from your mission, from your bottom line that you're connecting to the 15 to 20 hours a week, assuming you're measuring that directly, and that's not a rough estimate. Because what you're missing is what you need to start measuring. And I would be cautious with what you measure to still improve, focus on the quality. Because double the time on something does not inherently mean double the productivity. People do wear out, they're human.